What? Oh, there we go. Hi. Well, no one's watching yet, so what the hell? That's why I put in these little intros, is hoping that it might go out to the masses, and then people go, "Oh, Phil's going live," and then they tune in. They can still see the countdown happening, and then by the time the countdown ends, I'm here and I can talk to people and start from scratch. But no, people usually don't join in until I'm right about to leave, so I could go through and do whatever it is that I'm doing, and then at the end of it, people going, "Oh, hi," and now do I explain everything again because it's live, or just say, "You know what? I'm leaving. You missed it. Watch it in the repeat." By the way, my accents are getting worse again. I gotta get something for that. Look at this. This is terrible. I don't know what's going on. It was getting better and it's getting worse. I know I had an eye infection and it's never completely healed. Just ignore that. So yeah, I had a lovely little chat with everyone last week. This is a really wide view, and I wanted it slightly narrower than this, but I don't think I can unless if I try to zoom in. If I go to standard, I think I get like a crappier view. Yeah, it's really awful. So I go to the widescreen, but if I try to zoom in, it's no, I don't want that. All right, this it is. How's everyone doing? Junebug Films, hi, how are you? Good to see you. Yeah, so I got one person in anyways. I kind of did in my last live. I did a bit of little bit of a life update on everything that's going on, and the fact that I got to be out of here in a couple of months, and so I got to start the process of packing. So all of this is going to be a mess very, very soon. I'm not going to go into details about that, but it's not great. But I'll be happier once I'm settled somewhere else. I did kind of title this on developing your own style. I intended to actually make a proper video on this. There was a proper edited video and not a live. But I needed an excuse to go live tonight, and I thought I would kind of go over some of this. I'm not sure if it's actually worth it or viable to kind of go into this that much right now. Maybe what I should have done is just done a drawing stream. If I do that, I'll have to change the title of the stream. But yeah, I kind of intended to kind of go over this for people who like to draw, and kind of talk a little bit about developing a drawing style. I think a lot of people go into this. How would I describe my own? Because I've been doing this for a long time. I am a cartoon. It's, first of all, a lot of my stuff is cartoonish. I don't know. I can interjump between different things depending on what I'm doing. Like I can do something a Disney style. I can do something a Warner Brothers style. But I've never adapted into one. This is something I kind of wanted to tap into a little bit as we go along in this, because when I started in school, when I was like 18 and coming into college, to go into animation, the fact is you're walking into a studio. You're going into an environment where you're working for another company where they already have productions made, and they have people who've been working there a long time and already have things on the go. And so you have to adapt to whatever it is that they are doing. So I worked at Nelvana. Nelvana has its own way of doing things, and when a show starts, it might have a particular look and style to it. You have to learn to just adapt and draw whatever that style is. They give you model sheets of the characters, they give you prop sheets, they give you storyboards. You look at it and you get a feel for that off of everything, what the final product is going to look like, and you have to learn to adapt to that. And then if you finish that production, you go into something else, it might have a totally different look. So you have to adapt into that. And so doing that for years, and then leaving animation and doing caricatures, which is a whole different thing altogether. And there's different ways you can do caricatures. I found that for myself, there was no one particular thing. If you look on my Instagram, you will see there is kind of a certain look to my work, no matter what it is. But there's one there of Bugs Bunny dancing from What's Opera, and that's very Warner Brothers. I can do that if I have to. You know, whatever it might be. If I'm drawing another character, I know how to read off of model sheets and do it. So that's just kind of how that works. So I have Phil Chandler's cartoon style, and that's kind of mine. But it's the eyes, yeah. Practice makes perfect. Start with the eyes. Think of your strengths, intended tone, and go from there. Sure, if you're developing something for yourself, uh, then yeah, that's kind of general good advice, depending on what it is that you're doing, of course. So um, it's a funny thing because I think a lot of younger people, when they're starting out drawing, they want to develop this, and a lot of young people get really, really hung up on it. I was surprised at how many young people are really frustrated, saying they don't like their style of drawing. They started drawing and realizing it's not looking very good, or it's not looking right, or it's not developing the way they wanted it to. And this is particularly more noticeable in young people because I think they're starting out and they want to get off on the right sort of foot with the right sort of mindset. And I get that. So instead of getting all stressed out, I usually just kind of say, stop it. Just stop where you are. The first thing you want to ask is, look, how old are you? You don't have to answer that formally, but just think about how old you are, where you are in life, and what you're doing. A lot of younger people are planning on want to learn how to draw because somehow they want to get into the industry somehow, and they want to go work for a studio or go work for something. There's not too many I know that want to, I don't know, just go on YouTube and draw for their life. That's probably not a good idea. So, and a lot of older people, it's more of a hobbyist, in which case just have fun with it, right? So, was it based on your style? Sorry, I can't read very good today. Based on what I see your style on Instagram, you kind of a mixture of all the big three. Yeah, Looney Tunes, Hanna-Barbera. Sure, that's kind of. I went to school for animation, right? I worked in the industry for a little bit, so that would make sense for me to do that, to have that kind of style, and I like that. I like that kind of round, solid, enclosed, cartoonish figure that can be flexible, that you can do anything with, and all these kind of fall into that, right? They all have certain looks to them. They were animated all differently, but that's kind of yeah. I guess that would kind of where I would kind of fall into. But I think the hardest thing though is that I made some notes. By the way, I got an iPad out and I wrote down a bunch of notes. I'm still going to make this into more of a formal. I have something in my tooth and it's bothering me. I'm going to make this into like more of an edited and formal video because on here it's a little hard to. I feel like I'm jumping all over the place. So I do want to open up one of my programs here that I'm going to maybe write a few things down with, and if you can just follow along with me. Caleb, by the way, how are you? I didn't say hello. My Scottish friend, who's also an artist. And is very, very tall. Hold on, I see something come up. Practicing a sketchbook and think later, what do you want to convey? Sure, sketchbooks are good for that. Sketchbooks are your world. I love when people come and go, oh, can I see your sketchbook? And sometimes you really just don't want to. You understand that the sketchbook is where you make all your mistakes. You do all your roughs, your ideas, your planning, all goes into these rough sketchbooks. It's all, you're getting those bad drawings out so that when you go to the finished one, you have that finished piece after you pull out the good paper and the good watercolor and all this. But your sketchbook really is just practicing, but people seem to love to look at it and thinking it's, and you see people do videos on their sketchbooks. There's even some great artists who've had their sketchbooks published as books. And I guess if you're that good, sure, but my sketchbooks were always just practice that no one else was supposed to see. It's like your diary about life, trying to sort out your thoughts and whatnot, right? Having family time and okay, all right, very nice. Oh, good. Yeah, don't do any of that anymore because I have no family. But yeah, the very first thing I would tell anybody, I tell anyone if let's just start with learning how to draw, right? Like just learn. Oh, I was going to add this in here. Let's do this first. Screen share. Google wants to screen share. Oh, please tell me you're not going to be a problem with that. I don't have time for that today. There we go. All right. Good boy. I want a little bit different look here. That's the whole window is being shared. All right. Oh, it doesn't give my... All right. What you're seeing here is just a drawing space. The panels along the sides are not visible. So we're just going to have this, I guess. I don't know why all the panels are not showing up. Very odd. I'm using Sketchbook Pro, which has floating panels. Maybe you should open up something different. Maybe something like Clip Studio. I like Sketchbook, but that's very strange that it's doing that. Let's just close this. Don't save. Didn't plan this very good, did I? Wait for the program to open. Dance. Welcome to Clip Studio. Yes, I know. You're currently using the current version. I know. All right, let's close this. It still has tabs open from the last time when I was explaining the comics use on this. All right, new. And we're just doing illustration. 16 by 9. We'll do the 16 by 9 wide one. All right, very good. Very, very good. What's the weather like up there in Scotland, my friend? We are getting buried in snow here in Canada, at least near the Toronto area. We are getting dumped on something terrible, and it's just going to last like the next few days. I hate it when it does this. The thing just separated. Why are you doing this to me? I forgot how to do that. All right. It just did something really weird, but we're going to do it anyways. I don't have time. I'll sort it out after. Since you have a little bit of that Don Bluth Walt Disney stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Don Bluth, it's such a... Oh, what just happened? There we go. Don Bluth is an interesting artist because while his stuff is very stylized, all his stuff have a certain look to them. The way he does like elbows and you see like wrinkles in clothes, the structure of face, the way the mouths really exaggerate when they move. His stuff is still very Disney-like. But it's geared to his particular look and style. It's very squared off hands. You can tell he really learned from Milt Kahl. He definitely took a lot of influences on Milt Kahl, and you can see that in the structure. And so yeah, it's not going to show that panel because now it's floating. Damn it! All right, that's fine. It looks like it's missing a panel, but I have it on here, so. It's very odd that it's doing this, isn't it? Okay. Well, this is not going at all as I had planned. Look, I've said this before and I'll say it a million times, right? It's the first thing you have to... I encourage people to get an education in drawing. Somehow get some kind of education in drawing. Learn how to draw. Learn from somebody. You can try and be self-taught, and that's great if you can get somewhere with it. But there's nobody who is more experienced to critique your work properly and tell you what's going on, what works and what doesn't, and to give you those hard truths that you need to hear. As much as maybe you might like what you're doing, Oh, my microphone is way over the hell over here. Okay, surprised anyone can hear me. Good heavens. Is this any different? It should be. But so the first thing I'm going to say is learn how to draw. Right, learn how to draw. As I said, take a class, take some night courses if you can't go to a college university. Take some courses online. Find a really good reputable artist. I always say try and get somebody a bit older. There's a lot of young people who are doing this on YouTube because they can do it. I mean, get somebody who has been in studios and has worked with people on things like animated films, or who have made something successful with their art. Get somebody who's like in their 40s or older, if you can. I do highly recommend that, just because they have the life experience and the hard experiences they've gone through to give you that hard truth, and in a sensible way that you can take it seriously. So do what you can to try and get as much education as you can on learning how to draw, and keep practicing that. Right, practice, and that goes without saying. We taught you. Some of the people that taught you. Oh, wow. That's sort of a loaded question, to keep it really simple, because I had a lot of teachers at school that influenced me all the way back to like grade 12. There was this wonderful little British woman. Her name, I don't even know if she's around anymore. Mrs. Eckhoff was her name, Anne Eckhoff, and gosh, she would be like in her 90s by now, probably. This woman, if she's still around, she was wonderful, and she encouraged me all the way through. I had some really good instructors, some names in the animation world that maybe people might not quite have heard of, but possible that were, if you look them up, if you Google them, you could probably find them. My big ones were like Wayne Gilbert, Charlie Bonifacio, and there was Maury White, Brian LeMay for layout. That's a big name in comics and animation. So they were my instructors, and the ones who kind of led me on the path. I particularly really liked Charlie. He was a phenomenal structural artist. Holy cow. He wasn't one of these speed artists that really would do things really fast, but what he did do was his sense of volume and weight was so incredible. I really appreciate that man's work. He did. I know he did bits of work on like Fern Gully and All Dogs Go to Heaven. I looked for this everywhere and I can't find it, but there was an old, I want to say Fanta or Sprite commercial that had Disney characters either at a pool party back in the 90s, early 90s that he did. Phenomenal animation. He's incredible. I remember Wayne Gilbert was very story-oriented. He was very good with stylized, not stylized, but simplifying things really down to get like the dynamics of what a character is doing and how they're moving, and how to really simplify it as a fast, quick thing to show like lines of action and that kind of thing. He was very good with that. He's also very much into story, simplifying a structure of a story when you're conveying something on screen. However, the funny thing was he was not big on features. He never was particularly fond of full-length features. When Beauty and the Beast came out, he made no bones about the fact he hated that film, did not like it. And he says, this should not have been why this was made into a feature. He says, I don't know. They could have done this live action. He did something in live action. He says, don't do it. But no, animation to him, he was very much more into shorts. He felt that something very quick, short to convey this and done. But he was not big on features. So for some strange reason, especially a lot of the current stuff at the time, which was like the early 90s, just he was not big on. Some of the outside of that, like the Nine Old Men from Disney. I was always a fan of Milt Kahl. Milt Kahl to me was always one of the best animators. He was apparently a pain in the ass to work with. Nobody liked working with him, but if you could put up with him, you would learn a lot from him, apparently. But all the 9 Old Men are gone now. But I know I still have the Ollie Johnson book. Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnson, The Illusion of Life, the big, giant, thick book, which should be, I think, every animator's textbook if you can get a copy of that. That's, yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of other names out there. Like everyone that I've ever kind of artists that I've kind of tried to emulate. I used to love Charles Schultz. I used to love the Peanuts, and I would draw those characters all the time. We used to have the Wizard of Id. And BC, what was his name? I am drawing a blank on it. His grandson carries on now, and I am drawing a blank on it. And I'll have to look it up after. For the Phil Chandler. Yeah, we'll see eventually. My life is a shambles at the moment, but we'll talk. Anyways, that kind of got a little sidetracked off that. Yeah, I something else I think that, we'll bring up an eraser. I think people need to experiment a bit more. Learn what it is that you're trying to do. If you want to have your work look like something, you need to spend some time experimenting. And like, what do you like to draw? What is it you want to draw? Whoops, can't write. This has the stabilization up, so it looks scrappy. Like, do you like cartoons or do you like realism? Do you like sketching? Do you like painting? Do you like sculpting? What is it you like, and what can you spend time doing? Can you try all these little bits of different things while you're still very young, and see, well, anytime really, but see what clicks with you. Maybe you like drawing, but then until you've never tried sculpting, and you pull out some clay, and next thing you know, you realize you really love this. Or maybe it just all falls apart. You decide to skip with this sketching. But go to the dollar store, get the cheap stuff, get some cheap watercolors, get some cheap clay, get some stuff just to get a feel. And if you really like this, but this dollar store stuff is crap, but I really like doing this, then go and you can buy in the more expensive stuff and experiment with it. I don't like oil. I tried playing with it a lot. I like the look of it when it's done, but it is the messiest damn medium to play around with, and it's so much work to get to clean your brushes, and you need space. I can't be splattering oil everywhere and get it all over stuff. I can't do that in here. It's way too messy. I've never been big on pencil crayons. I even got a really nice set and ended up selling it because I just wasn't into pencil crayons. I do like the colored sticks, which is funny because it's the same thing that is inside pencil crayons, or sorry, as Americans, colored pencils. Sorry, US. But the sticks of it, not to be confused with, because you can get these pastel sticks. Not those, are very dusty and chalky. That's like chalk. But they don't sell them anymore. Unfortunately, I was really mad at Prismacolor. They stopped selling these graphite sticks. I still have a whole bunch of them. They'll probably last me the rest of my life, thankfully. But I can't get any more colors. But they were great for coloring caricatures. If somebody wanted one color, they were these rectangular things that were just the colored lead from inside the colored pencils that you could color in large areas by using the side of it, and they're fantastic stuff. And I like inking, even though I know I'm not great at it, but I do like inking. My hand shakes too much and I make too many mistakes, which is why I like going digital. Let's see. I believe Mike Judge got a lot of his stuff from a 99-cent store when he made Beavis and Butthead. Sure. Yeah, I believe that. And for first season. So it can work. Sure, you find the right stuff. Absolutely. I have these alcoholic markers that aren't great, but they were dollar store alcoholic markers, but they're vibrant. Wow, they're vibrant. They just don't blend very well. They don't blend like, say, the Copics. But if you just like working with areas of color and you're not worried about blending, these ones are fantastic. I don't know how light fast they are. Probably not very good. Mind you, Copic's not very light fast. People love it, but you leave that out exposed in sunlight after a year, and that stuff fades. Something awful. But people love it. There was a phase where people loved that stuff. People loved the markers until they realized it's not very light fast, and they fade after a few years. So scan it, save it, and then just watch it slowly disappear. But what else did I have written here? Different artists with different styles. Oh, yeah. Oh, there was another one. There's another name of somebody I used to really like. I still do. Was Norman Rockwell. I actually really like Norman Rockwell's work. I don't know why he was considered more of an illustrator than an artist. It's bullshit argument we can save for another time. But I always like Norman Rockwell's stuff. His was almost borderline kind of caricatured, the expressions on the faces and everything. But a tier list of the 9 old men. Yeah, I guess you really have to kind of see their work. That's a hard thing to do because I hate to make a list to say who is better than another one. That's a harsh thing, and I know one of them died tragically in an accident. He struggled a lot with things in life and died in an accident, sadly. But he made a lot of big contributions to Disney. But if you made a tier list, I'd still have to put Milt Kahl at the top of that. But yeah, captured America for years. He really did. His stuff was it the Saturday Evening Post? I think was. Magazine. His art was on the cover of for many years. Yeah, I always really liked him. Another one was Paul Peel, who's a Canadian artist. I really like Paul Peel's stuff. I managed to see one of his exhibits about 30 years ago at a museum, and it was in London, Ontario, and I got to see that, and his stuff was really similar but different. I don't know how to explain it. But yeah, there was also the Group of Seven from Canada as well. Canadians know who the Group of Seven is. If you're Canadian, you learned about them in history. They just existed and is a big chunk of Canadian history. We learned about them in grade school. Americans probably won't know who they are, but. Good. What else did I write here? Oh, copy and imitate. This is a tough one. This is one I have to be careful how I explain this, because it's sort of a no-no. But you're not showing your work. You're not. This is where the sketchbook things comes back, right? Is here. Let me. Why is this doing this? My program's decided to act. I'm gonna have to close this and start it again. 1 second. It'll probably do the same thing. Just a moment. The panel has been separated from it, and I need to. Hopefully, this will join it back together again. Nope, it did not. All right, I'm gonna have to suffer with that. There is a way to connect it back, and I don't remember. All right, so I got it back open. Let's just go back to share screen. Do I want the entire screen? Or do I want just the window? Does the entire screen make a difference? Oh, yeah. There we go. All right. It's kind of not what I wanted, but it'll do for now. Copy and imitate. Is that how imitate is spelled? I feel like that's spelled wrong. Anyways, you get the idea. This comes back to the whole sketchbook thing, that the sketchbook is your thing. The sketchbook was never kind of meant to be seen by anybody else, even though people love to see your sketchbook. And I usually tell them no. In fact, I don't even do sketchbooks anymore. I just like to keep loose paper. If I was to do physical drawing, I keep loose paper, or I have now with the iPad, I can just use Procreate to do some quick little doodles in, and I save a lot of those. I will put them in files off on a backup drive, but I don't share them. And because sometimes I'm doing something where somebody looked through, you didn't invent, why are you drawing Fred Flintstone? I'm like, well, I'm kind of just learning structure. It has nothing to do with the fact that I'm drawing Fred Flintstone. I'm not selling that picture or anything. I just want to learn the structure and what that particular style was for that character. So, yeah, that was the kind of idea. Is your goal is not to be exactly like them, but you're getting an idea of that particular style. You can even take an image and trace it if you have to, because then you get a feel for how that design flow works over top of that. Then after you trace it, you can then try and copy it onto one side. See if you can do it, and then just see if you can do it without the reference material. How much of that can you get right? And the idea is you're not worried about whether it's exact or not. You're just trying to get a feel for what that design is. And this is basically what we do. If I was to walk into a studio back in the 90s, in the old days, and we're going to work on a particular, like I did work on Rupert the Bear, I'm going to take the model sheets, go home, and start drawing a bunch of Rupert the Bear. That's just, it is. Imitation is the highest form of flattery. That's true. Yes. But at the same time, this is also, I'm kind of referring this to learning on how to learning how to draw and developing your own personal style in that. And so seeing what somebody else does. So yes, if you do like their work, then yes, you're going to probably use that as reference, and you're going to try and trace that and copy it and learn it. Sometimes it's just because it's for the job, right? I mean, when I went into Nelvana to work on, when I went to go do work there, the first one they put me on was actually, when was my first job? Oh, it was, I was in betweening Babar the elephant. And then I didn't really like doing in-betweens, and it was stressing me out, and I wasn't going to go back to it. But then some openings came up on Rupert for layout, and I went and did layout. I enjoyed that so much more. But I had to learn that, right? If I had a choice, I would have liked to have gotten on the Beetlejuice cartoon, because the designs in that were wild, crazy stuff, just so much fun. And it had actually just ended the year before I started. Unfortunately, it had just gone off the air. They had went 3 years and then it finished after that, which was too bad, because I would have loved to have actually done work on that. What did I write here? In animation, a character designer makes the character. Okay. So in the process of making a production for an animated series or film, you have a team of people who are character designers, and the director has an idea for what he looks like. He works with the designers to get that. That's a very difficult job, because while your work, director wants it to look like something, and you're trying to match what's in his head, even if the director doesn't know, might not even be an artist, but you're trying to match what this idea he has for it. And it can be really stressful, because I want lots of hair, but shorter hair, but lots of it. No, a little more. No, a little less. And they can drive you crazy. Not many young people jump into a character designer. They all think they want to do designing. I want to make the character. And in the end, it's kind of not yours. You're still just following instructions for somebody else. And then once that's done, I'm sure the director works very closely with the designer. Once they've got that, all that goes out to all the other artists, and then you have to match that, whatever they just come up with. So again, it's not entirely yours. Your stuff is what you do kind of on your time, right? When you're in the studio and you're working, you're doing what they need you to do, but what ends up being yours is ultimately what you do on your time. So yeah, if you want to make something yourself, you'll likely end up doing it as a hobby, or if you want to just make YouTube videos. But you might find it kind of empty at the end. It can stress you out. Sometimes when you go to work and you draw all day and you come home, you just don't want to draw. You just want to turn on Netflix and shut off the world and not even look at a pencil. But yeah, and that's unfortunately the hard truth that you think that as artists, we eat, breathe, and live drawing. There's some truth to that. I can never imagine going through life not being able to draw. But as far as like when you do it for work, it's like anything else. So I was telling somebody, I work at the YMCA, I work at a gym. Oh, you get some free time, you go work out there. I was like, it's hard to actually want to go in and actually work out when this is also the place where I work, and I don't want to spend like half my life there, right? The other thing I think for developing a style too, and you've got to tell people, is stop trying to rush it. Take your time, especially if you're young. You have so much time. I wrote down here, it's a journey, it's not a race. I'm still learning to draw something. Some things I've forgotten about, and I have to learn to redraw them. But make the most of your time, make the most of your youth. You only get it once. In the end, I always tell people, kind of give up thinking about style. Just don't. And just have it be empty. I would. There's a lot to learn. There's so much to learn. So I say, don't worry about it. Look at your goals and what you want in life, right? And just stop trying to stress over something like that. Remember, what are your goals? Do you want to work for a studio? Studio, you'll have time to learn and adapt. Yeah. One thing is, when it comes down to it, trying to develop your style, the only one that's really going to care in the end is you. No one else really cares. If you can draw, people who can't will think you're amazing. It doesn't even matter if you draw better or worse than somebody else. If you understand the basics of drawing and you know how to draw, as long as you're doing something better than what that other person's doing, they're going to find you amazing. And they will see something. Maybe they will like whatever your style is showing at the moment. But that's, so that's why I always say, don't be too hung up on that sort of thing, and stop trying to develop a style. It'll come. Once you learn how to draw and other ways that other people draw in the industry, yours will come. One style I've not seen a lot of people at least try is... Oh, yeah, I'd have to see some of the stuff again. Van Buren. Yeah, give me a moment here. Oh, isn't that the... I was wondering if that's what it was. I heard that and I wanted to make sure I had the right name. What are they? There's a name for that. It's the very early Disney kind of stuff. It's like the tube legs and the tube arms and limbs. It's that are very wavy and bendy. But it was in the early days of animation, before they really fully understood slow ins and slow outs, and the timing of animation and the pacing. Although the funny thing was, even though it was before that was all developed, and that was learned, which changed animation. That particular movement seemed to be a thing on its own, and people have actually started mimicking that again. Of the people that are into that kind of thing, it's interesting. Let me believe in your future goals for animation, what you mentioned. I did want a studio at one time. I thought it'd be great to have an animation studio because I always had these ideas kicking around for things that I wanted to do. I'm getting older. A lot of the people that I went to school with in animation are now retiring. I'm older than I look. Right now, I think really, to do a studio and all is such a huge undertaking, and animation has changed so much. It's not what it was that I learned in college. Everything I learned is obsolete now. Even though I work off a tablet. I don't work in 3D. I don't work in CGI. I just never learned it, and it's a weird thing that I just can't wrap my head around. I don't like what's the word for it? It looks like cutouts. It looks like cutout animation, and it drives me crazy, and I don't really like it. It's where they use Moho Animation uses it, where it uses bones in it so that it bends parts at joints, and it's like sticking cutouts together, and it looks weird to me, and it doesn't feel like it flows properly. I still like traditional frame by frame animation where each drawing is drawn out and you learn volume and size rather than trying to shift something that's not going to move or turn. And I know there's ways around that. I've seen it. I've watched it in use. It's just something that loses me. So if I was to have anything like that, it would be very traditional. I'm kind of just happy at home on the computer now doing my thing. If you see on Instagram or on Facebook, I put up a lot of drawings of cartoons, and I like just kind of making my thing now. I've tried a couple of times even to take commissions, and I was happy to, and I kind of had to stop for a while taking commissions because every time I picked one up, I swear to God, the sky would fall in. As soon as I picked one up, something hits the fan. It's like this gypsy curse over my life that every time I pick up, I'll have nothing going on. And then somebody would say, hey, could you do this little thing for me? Or could you work on this little design or something I really want? Sure. And then boom, I'll suddenly get called into work. My friggin' building is falling apart. Things will catch on fire and collapse, and stuff will come out of nowhere. And so this really simple job that would normally take me about 2 days to do, I now can't get done. And it seems to be like every time this happens, and it does my head in. So I kind of given up doing commissions. I had to tell people I really can't do them until I'm kind of, once I maybe resettled in my new place come May, maybe I can do that a little more. But I find commissions difficult. And also it's difficult dealing with people because, I want this cartoon character of me, but with wild hair. I want to look like Lupo the Clown, but not like Lupo the Clown, but kind of like Lupo the Clown. I want big hair. Nope, that's too big. A little bit less. Oh, wait, can you add a little bit more? He needs to be fatter, not too fat, because he's got to look like me. Maybe a little bit, but not too much. No, that's too much. My nose is too big. That can't deal with that anymore. I don't like people. So that's why I just kind of like, I don't hard. Some people I know are really good. I know a couple of people who are just really flexible. Man, I could just it's like, oh my God, that's great. I'll put down one streak. And it's like, it's brilliant. And they just love me for whatever I do. They might want a little change in like colors of socks and things like this. But otherwise, they're like really happy with what I do. And those are the kinds that I really like to work with. But boy, some people, there are many ballooners when it comes to any field. Oh, I know. There was, I created Uno with, yeah, I remember hearing about that. I watched was it a TED Talk? I think it was a TED Talk. Guy had retired for a few years. He was hitting 70 and was bored out of his mind. But this guy had a really good business. He worked in business for years and had a really great business. Like, he knew how to get a business off the ground, and he was bored out of his mind. And he said he woke up one day and told his wife, "I can't do this. I need to do something." And he started a business of recyclable, if it was garbage bags or shopping bags, but it was a type of recyclable bag made out of certain material, and he knew how he could market it and get it out there. And he established a really good little business. I don't know if it's still, I wish I knew the name of it. But he started a really good business for himself and had a blast. And here he was in his 70s, just having the time of his life with this, running this business, selling eco-friendly recyclable bags. So, you know, that's kind of, we did a feature. It's your vision. We will have to talk. I haven't forgotten. Yeah, we will definitely have to talk, because I can't do a feature on my own. I tell you honestly too, I never animated that much. If I was to do a feature, I would need a team. First of all, I need a team of people, because I'm not one. They figured out that for Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, it would have taken one person over 80 years to finish the entire film. So I would need a team of animators. I don't mind doing the design work and the storyboards and even some of the layouts. After that, I want to just oversee everything else. But I was never a very good animator. I wasn't real great at it. I knew all I knew it up here. I knew what works and what doesn't, and I could look at it and see it, and I could even tell where the mistakes are. But when it takes your hand down to paper and doing it, it's a whole different thing. And sometimes when stuff doesn't come together, it's like, I even know it. I can see it. It's like, why is this not working? And sometimes it's just the brain to hand thing. I don't know. If I do like a cartoon character, if just a single cartoon panel, I can fiddle with it and play with it and make it work. But animation is a whole different thing. But yeah, I would need like a team of people. I think it needs a good solid, you need like a solid structure. You need a full script. Scripts are very difficult to kind of lay out properly. But in order to storyboard off of that, I think it's like 1 page for every minute of film is what it comes down to when it's written out. So if you have an 80-minute film, your script has got to be at least 80 pages in length. And then the storyboards from that are even more. And you need the place to do that, right? I would need a full space. I would need a whole like studio to do that properly. It's not that it's not undoable. It's just you would need that vision and the people to come together to do that. Being able to start your own studio because you can provide. Oh, sure, I totally believe that, and that's what I would have to do. I'd have to have a team of people. Here's one thing too. I don't know if I've talked. I don't know if I've mentioned this. I have had a story in my head for years that I always said I wanted to make into an animated series. I've had the full arc, still bits and pieces and chunks I would have to work out, but I know how I want this whole arc to go, and I figured it would be about. I could see it being about 5 seasons with about 3 to 5. There's certain ways I would break it up, and it would be about 8 to 12 episodes a season, and it would tell a full arc. The way I had it in my head was kind of like the old Doctor Who series, the old ones, where they would take about 3 or 4 episodes to tell one mini story. But then those mini stories would connect into a season, and the seasons would connect into one long arc. And I have had this in my head for years. People kept telling me, why don't you make it as a comic? And I tried that. I started to write it as a comic a couple of times. I ran into 2 big problems. One is I'm just not very good at doing comics, but also because so much of it was visualized in my head as having movement and sound, and there was a lot visually that you just can't convey in a comic just does not work. And some of the gags and the jokes and that just won't work. And it drives me nuts that I could never do them. But very simply, it was. And the problem is too is that when I start describing it, everyone says, "Oh, that's been done before already. It's already been done lots of times." I've had this in my head for 25 years. I've really wanted to do it, whether it's been done 100 times or not. I don't care. I have had this. I've had these characters in my head, and I have wanted to do this for years and years. And one day I would love to get it off the ground, but it's hard that when you try and describe what you want to do and people want to interfere with their own ideas. You should do this and you should do this. And I've had only one person actually throw some suggestions that were actually workable. But even then I had to cut it off at certain points because I went, this is now interfering too much with what I had in mind. But I like some of the ideas they gave me. I've had permission to go with them. But I've wanted to, it was a space adventure that takes place in the future. It kind of has a little mix of like a weird sort of Star Trekian-like future mixed with a little bit of Doctor Who because he's an adventurer. The main character is a dog, and he has this team of about 2 or 3 others that go on these crazy adventures when they start learning some secrets of something that's going on, and each adventure that they go on is another piece of the puzzle when they realize that something terrible is coming and they have to sort it all out. And it's this long story arc that takes place until they come together. It's a comedy space adventure, but has moments of much seriousness to it and a lot of my own views about the world and the future and the kind of where we are going as a society, what we could be, what we are. Things like that are reflected in that story. So while it's very comedy based, it also has a lot of serious elements. I have written out so many mini pieces of that story, and a lot of those segments I've actually even put into comic form. I took a big moment out of the first story, the first portion of the first story, and I laid it out as a comic. And that little bit worked, and then I started running into issues where visually it just was not coming together. But that is something I have had in my head for over 25 years. I really would like start as a game. I used to play role-playing games, the old style. We used to sit at a table and roll dice with friends, and the old Dungeons and Dragons. And a friend of ours, for one night, for doing something a bit different, pulled out and says, "I have this different thing here. It's space adventure instead of Dungeons and Dragons." And we rolled out these characters, and I had this idea of this captain of this little ship that I drew as a dog, and it would as others developed the characters, the dog, and the idea was he was a dog who was incredibly intelligent because it is in the future, and so animals will learn to speak and talk, and dogs are sort of broken off to form their own society on a different planet. But he's very intelligent, like a Doctor Who-like character. He has a sense of the universe, and he can speak different languages, incredibly intelligent. And he has a sidekick who is a human, who is a young human, and you know where that inspiration is, but they're very different, though. The human's not bright. He's dumb as a lead brick, but he's an incredibly good pilot, so he takes him with him, and he's taken him under his wing, and he's sort of a teen. Yes, it's very much the Sherman and Peabody, right? But I have a whole different kind of twist, completely different designs, completely different characters and characterizations, completely different voices, completely different. Everything else is just it's a dog, and his companion is a human. And there's another character that's this large boar-like female character who's sounds like Fran Drescher. And there is Ada, a robot on board named Ada, who is a medical droid, who is kind of this sassy thing who she was kind of a late add-in character because I needed like a robot on the ship, and I thought, well, what kind of robot would be on this traveling ship? And I thought, well, probably medical, right? But she kind of is the voice of reason amongst them and helps keep all of them when things get out of hand. She's the one who kind of comes in and can say, look, let's keep it together, kind of thing, right? And that was kind of the crew. And the ship itself also has a talking, it's not so much, I guess it's sort of an intelligence, but it's the ship. was still kind of working on that kind of thing. But the ship I called the Spot. And when you see the wings out and the head, it looks like a shape of like a giant dog head in a way with the wings out. But they call it Spot. But the word Spot is an anagram, but couldn't decide on an anagram. And I thought that would actually be a funny gag in it, that the SPOT, every time they talk about it, it stands for something different. And because he's exploring the universe, it was supposed to be a delivery ship, so it stands for like ship's parts and other things or something like that. He'll come up with something different every time. So that was like I said, 25 years I had that kicking around. It came out of the idea from that game, and as I started developing ideas with it, it just kind of went. I think I called it Star Tales, and but I don't know if that'll ever see the light of day. I would love to do that. I wanted to pitch that for the longest time, but I'd only pitch it if I can keep the story, the characters. Those are mine. And I wouldn't know the first idea where to kind of pitch something like that. But yeah, that's it. What's this? Pen tablet, like your computer text. Oh, no? Maybe later? Okay. As long as I can still. Why does my pen tablet want to control my computer? But let me see here. Let me see if I can bring this up. Let me get a pencil in here. Real pencil. I haven't drawn this character in a while. I wanted to give them like wild, fantastic names. Since this is this dog character, he's incredibly intelligent and very let's say worldly, but he's of the universe, knows languages and everything. And I remember watching Superman and thinking, I like the fact they had these weird sort of alien complicated names. He was like Jor-El, and I thought I need to come up with something like that, but just something that sounded kind of alien, slightly regal. And I started. I heard somewhere that like the name something like Quedrilox, and so I thought I was going to call him Kyponius Quedrilox, and I really liked the name, and that's what I ended up. It was going to call him Chip at first. It's sort of a short form that was kind of a cute. Oh no, that's not his here at all. And I thought, no, I didn't. Chip might be a short form, and I didn't like it at first. And when I came up with Kyponius, I thought he could call him Kip at first, so which stood for was short for Kyponius Quedrilox. But his sidekick, which I called Jeffrey, is the only one who kind of calls him Kip. Everyone else kind of formally goes by his formal name, and. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be talking too much about this in a live stream because this is kind of my idea. And I've never formally been able to copyright it, but I think the nose is a bit long. Let's fix that nose. No, it's fine for now. I'm not going to keep it. I know I've probably drawn this character before. Come on. You see this? I'm getting this arrow. Sometimes it doesn't want. I'll lose the pencil thing on it like that, and it will not switch back. I am going to, since I had to reboot the computer. Clip Studio's got some issues, boy. Whew, if this keeps up, I might have to go out of Clip Studio. I might have to do that. And he had this collar with a medallion on it. And the medallion would later, you'd find out, was something to do with his family. And there was kind of a big secret about that. He could have this sort of, has a little bit, not a cape, but it's got a little extra flap on the back that I designed it with. And it's really messy, but that's kind of. But steps with everything you can do in Star Tales. Yeah, we'll definitely talk. We'll definitely talk about that. I need to get a lot of things sorted because I have to move now. I've talked a little bit about it. I don't want to go into too much detail. It's not whatever you hear. It's not a rent eviction. They're not allowed to do that here. But brush size. I have been. Oh, it's too dark. It's like an ink. Anyways, you kind of get the idea. I don't need to actually go into much detail. It's I have an offer because I know that there's new owners to the building, and there's an offer, and I don't want to live here anymore. I don't want to give this company any more of my money. It's an awful, awful company. This big friggin' this building used to be owned by this lovely woman. She was older. She obviously, I can understand she wanted to retire, spend time with her grandkids. So she sold the last of the buildings that she owned, this being one of them. And, a new company bought it. And she got a nice chunk of money. And they bought it, though, agreeing originally to keep me on. And I was sort of an assistant here. I used to clean the stairs, take out the garbage, etc. And then they didn't want to do that. And an offer was made if I was willing to leave, and I was like, fine, I don't want to be here anymore. So that was the end of that. So I'm going to leave. And there was certain situations here too where I just felt I didn't want to be here in the situation that I'm in anyways. So it's time for me to move on. And this is him. That's Kip, looking very annoyed as he usually is, because everyone else and everything else is beneath him. But despite the fact that he feels everyone else is beneath him, he also feels this obligation to protect everyone and everything as well. And everything kind of always goes wrong. He really kind of looks down his nose and feels like everyone's beneath him, even though he really wants to help in the end. Everything goes crazy and out of hand, and everything goes wrong. But yet, at the same time, everything kind of comes together in the end anyways. There was supposed to have a little bit of tuft of fur. What do you want? Open system settings. What is it you want? I did this already. Luckily, you can't see that. Are we happy now? You're going to leave me alone. There we go. Anywho, I know my roommate's supposed to be coming back home soon. He's probably going to want to make dinner, and it'll be really loud. And I don't know if I'm going to put up with that right now or not, but I could perhaps continue. What I just talked about, I'm going to make into a full formal video at some point, because I do want to get this YouTube channel going. I really want to make actual proper videos again. And try and not, it's been frustrating lately dealing with things that's happening around the world, and and I do want to kind of avoid things political, etc., so forth. It's been kind of hard to deal with a lot of that kind of thing because it's going to alter my life very quickly. It's going to cause things and prices to go up, and it's just in the situation that I'm put in now, it's going to change a lot, and it's incredibly obnoxious and frustrating. But we'll deal with it as best I can. So I'm trying to kind of stay away from most of that as much as I can. That's the most I kind of really would like to talk about it. But anyway, so there's kind of a structure of what, even though I can kind of see my structure needs a little bit of work again. I haven't been able to draw very much lately, and I can see it in the work. The more that I draw and the more that I practice, I realize I can see things coming together again. But when I'm not picking up the pencil, I'm not drawing that much, it does kind of begins to feels like it falls apart a little bit. It's like working out. Muscle memory is kind of a fantastic thing. As long as you start doing it again and you keep at it and you keep doing what you know is the right things to do, it will all come back. It'll definitely come back again to you. Right, and it just takes a bit of it takes a little bit of work, a little bit of perseverance, a little bit of time, and the best thing I can do really is just try and have fun with it while I can. It's kind of hard to do YouTube videos and do demos and do instructional type videos when I'm kind of slacking myself, and it feels a little disingenuous. So that's been the tricky part. So, but yeah, so I don't know. I might. I'd like to kind of keep streaming, but I know I've got. Yeah, to be honest with you, the snout's a little bit long. Definitely, I love the design work from that film. As a film, I always thought all dogs had some issues, but I always like dogs. There's also, you'll probably see a little bit of Tramp from Lady and the Tramp. I loved that film when I was a kid. I always loved that movie. So that kind of and also when Oliver and Company came out, I loved that flick. Yeah, so there's definitely some influences from those kind of films for sure, and that was kind of the idea that I wanted. I just didn't want to make the eyes as big. I know, like if you look at A Lady and the Tramp, the eyes are gigantic, and the same with Oliver and Company, the eyes were big. All Dogs, they were a little more oval shaped, but they were smaller, but had more oval shape. So that was closer to this. I just wanted to give them a little more. This is a little bit simplified. I think I might need to do a little more work with the eyes a bit in that. I kind of wanted still have dog eyes, but yet have just enough human expression to bring that out. Dog's eyes, if you notice, the pupils fill the whole thing practically. You don't see a lot of whites in it. But the more you shrink the pupils and the more you do with the eyebrows, the more expression you can do with that. So yeah, I might call it here. I'd like. Let me climb out of this one. Can you hear that? Can you hear a lot of noise in the hallway? Oh God. Just loud neighbors. All right. Well, unless anybody else wants to ask any questions, I've got 2 whole viewers, I think. But anyways, thanks for sitting in. I appreciate it. I kind of want to actually save this image for a bit. Maybe I can do something with that later, even though the snout's a bit long. I can fix that. Oops, that's not it. Unless anybody else really wants to say anything else, I'm going to actually call it for now before the roommate gets in. And maybe a little later on, I might come back on just to do a little sneaky drawing stream. But just maybe do some structural drawings, and that we'll just do for fun. But Junebug. All right, yeah. Phil Chandler Arts is mine. You can see it down here. Do I have you on there already? If not, just add me so I don't forget. But I'll try and add you on after I close the stream. So I'll keep this window open, and I'll try and add it on after I finish the stream. So I'll say goodnight for now, and maybe depending on things go a little later on, I'll try and jump on. It might be a late night stream. We'll see how it goes. So take care, everyone, and we'll talk to you all again very, very soon.